People say love covers a multitude of sins. But is that true? Let's find out from the story of Chizoba and Arinze. Arinze came home late again that night. His clothes were messy with oil and dirt from his long day at Kalu's mechanic shop. He was tired, but more than anything, he was hungry. He dreamt of eating a quiet meal, like in the old days when things were good between him and Chizoba. As he opened the door to their mini flat in Ojota, Lagos, he looked around the small living room. The TV was on, playing one of those shows he didn't care much about. Chizoba was sitting on the couch, her eyes glued to her phone, scrolling up and down. The light from her phone glowed on her face, but she didn't even look up when Arinze walked in.
"Welcome,"
she muttered without lifting her eyes from the screen. Arinze felt a small ache in his chest, but said nothing. He noticed the change in her lately, the distance, but he didn't want to think much about it. He just wanted to eat and rest. He hoped the food would at least bring him some comfort. He went straight to the kitchen, where Chizoba had already placed a plate of rice on the table. The sight of the food made his stomach growl. He sat down, picked up a spoon and took a bite, but something was wrong. He paused, slowly chewing, and then stopped. There was no salt. Arinze's eyebrows furrowed. He took another small bite, just to be sure, but no, there was no taste. He put the spoon down gently and sat quietly for a moment, thinking of how to say something without making Chizoba upset. "Chizoba, is there a reason why there is no salt in this food?" Chizoba looked up from her phone, her face showing no emotion.
"The money you gave me wasn't enough to buy everything. Or do you think salt is free?"
Arinze was taken aback. He wasn't expecting that. He stared at the plate of food, then at his wife, unsure of what to say. In the past, they would have laughed about something like this, but now her words stung. He didn't respond. Instead, he pushed the plate aside, his hunger fading away. Without another word, he stood up and quietly made his way to the bedroom. As he closed the door behind him, he thought he heard Chizoba mumble something under her breath. It was soft. He wasn't sure if she said anything at all. He stopped for a moment, glancing back towards the living room, but she was already back on her phone, as if he hadn't been there at all. Arinze sighed, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. Arinze had once been a successful car spare parts dealer at the busy Kelly's International Shopping Plaza. Business had been good until the fire. In just one night, flames engulfed the entire plaza, turning everything he had worked for into ash. Millions of naira gone in hours, and with it, his dreams. He thought he could rebuild. He thought Chizoba would stand by him, just as she had before. But ever since that fire, things had changed. She had changed. Chizoba had been the one keeping the family afloat with her small textile business. The business Arinze had helped her start when she complained about the stress of her office job. Now it was their only source of income, and it seemed like the burden weighed heavier on her with each passing day. One evening, Chizoba sat outside their flat with Annabelle, their neighbor. Annabelle was a widow who never missed an opportunity to give her views on marriage and men. The two women sat on plastic chairs, their legs stretched out, watching the children play nearby. "Chizoba, let me tell you something," Annabelle began, adjusting the scarf on her head. "I was a good wife. I did everything for my husband, cooked, cleaned, looked after the kids. But none of that stopped him from running off with a younger woman. I'm not saying all men are bad, but you have to be smart. Don't give too much. These men, they'll take advantage if you let them." Chizoba nodded, her thoughts swirling. "I hear you." Annabel leaned in closer. Look at me now. I gave everything and it still left. Don't be like me, oh. Keep your eyes open. Protect yourself. Chizoba swallowed the weight of Annabel's words, settling deep inside her. This conversation had become a regular part of her evenings, and slowly they began to shape how she saw her marriage. It was Sunday. The church was full, with hymns filling the air and the hums of prayer surrounding them. Arinze sat beside Chizoba, his hand folded in his lap. The pastor's voice echoed across the hall as he called out,
All men, come forward. Let's pray for God's blessing on your work, your family, and your future.
Arinze shifted in his seat, feeling the weight of the pastor's words. He had been praying for a breakthrough, a way to rebuild his life after the fire. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was the prayer he needed. But just as he moved to stand, Chizoba leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper.
Sit down and raise it, please. Don't go out there and embarrass yourself. You know they'll ask for money after the prayers. We can't afford that.
Her words stung, but he sat back down. His eyes lowered. He could feel the eyes of the other men walking past him, heading to the altar. The shame crept in like a shadow. Once they reached home, Chizoba went inside to prepare for the week ahead. Without a word, Arinze turned and headed down the road to Kalu's mechanic shop. It had become his escape, a place where he could forget the burden of failure that weighed him down at home. Kalu welcomed him with a grin as always, wiping his greasy hands on a rag. Arinze, long time my brother, how is everything? We are managing, Kalu, we are managing. Kalu noticed the strain in his friend's voice but didn't push. Instead, he motioned Arinze towards the cars lined up in the shop. Let me introduce you to our new sales rep, Zara. She has been a blessing here. She knows all the stuff better than most of the guys I've worked with. Arinze followed Kalu's gaze and saw Zara for the first time. She was busy inspecting an engine, her sleeves rolled up, focused but with a bright, welcoming energy that seemed out of place in the grimy workshop. Zara, come over here, please, Kalu called out. I want you to meet someone. Zara wiped her hands on her overalls and walked over with a smile that felt warm and genuine. Good afternoon, sir, she greeted. Afternoon, Arinze answered. Zara, this is Arinze, an old friend of mine. He runs a spare parts business, Kalu explained. Arinze's smile flattered for a second at the mention of his business, but he quickly recovered. Used to run, he corrected softly. But good to meet you, Zara. I've heard a lot about you, sir. You must have been good at what you did. I tried, but it just didn't work out. Well, things always have a way of turning around, sir, Zara said, her voice kind but firm. Sometimes you just need to look at things from a different angle. There was something in her words that struck him. Something that didn't feel like empty encouragement, but genuine belief. For the first time in a long while, Arinze felt a spark of hope, even if it is small. Thanks, he said. They chatted a little more before Kalu called Zara back to the cars. As Arinze watched her walk away, he realized that meeting Zara had lifted a weight he didn't know he was carrying. She was a bright spot in a world that had felt increasingly dark. He stayed for a while longer, talking with Kalu, but his mind kept drifting back to Zara's words. Maybe things could turn around for him. Maybe there was a way to rebuild, even if he couldn't see it yet. By this time, Arinze left the shop and headed home. He felt different, lighter somehow. He wasn't sure what it meant or if it would last, but for now, it was enough. A few days later, Arinze had just finished unloading a shipment of car parts at Kalu's shop when Zara appeared with a smile on her face. Good afternoon, sir. I brought lunch for everyone, she said, setting the food on a table nearby. Her eyes met Arinze briefly before she turned away to distribute the packs to the other workers. Arinze had been trying to avoid any unnecessary interaction with her, not wanting to entertain any feelings. But as the hours dragged on, his stomach reminded him that he hadn't eaten. "I never asked for lunch, Zara," Arinze said, glancing at the pack. "I know, sir, but it's just lunch. No pressure." For a moment, he debated whether to refuse it, but the hunger gurning at his belly won the argument. He picked up the pack and opened it, revealing a plate of steaming delicious jollof rice with fried plantains. He couldn't deny that it smelled good. "Thank you, Zara." Zara smiled and sat nearby, quietly eating her own lunch. They didn't talk much at first, but over the next few days, conversations started to slip in between the silences. Arinze found that she was easy to talk to, a good listener, and surprisingly insightful for someone so young. He hadn't realized how much he missed these same casual light conversations with his wife until now. At first, he felt guilty for enjoying the talks with Zara. He was a married man after all. But the weight of the cold atmosphere at home had started to wear on him. Chizoba rarely spoke to him unless it was necessary, and the warmth they once shared was long gone. Zara, on the other hand, never pried into his personal life, but she had a way of making him feel seen, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Each conversation, whether about work, life, or nothing in particular, seemed to ease the tension in his mind, if only for a while. He couldn't deny that Zara's lunch gesture had become a regular thing, and though he didn't always want to accept it, he knew deep down that he would be hungry. One Thursday evening, Arinze sat at the edge of his bed, rubbing his hands together. He needed money, not much, just enough to keep things moving. The fire at his shop has wiped him out, and while Chizoba's textile business was steady, asking her for money felt like another weight on his already tired shoulders. But he had no choice. Chizoba was in the living room when he approached her. Scrolling through her phone, she barely looked up when he started speaking. "Excuse me, Chizoba. I need some money to settle a few things. Not much, just something to keep the household running until I can get back on my feet." Chizoba finally looked up, her eyes cold.
Money. You need money from me. If you want money from me, Arinze, you will have to pay interest, 20%.
Arinze stared at her, stunned. 20%? Chizoba, we are a family. I'm not a stranger. She shrugged, showing no sympathy.
Arinze, please. Please, oh. I'm running a business, not a charity. And if you want this money, you will also need to start cooking dinner every night. I'm too tired after work to take care of you and to take care of our 2 children.
Arinze's face twisted in disbelief. Cook dinner every night and charge me interest. I'm your husband.
Oh, now you remember you're a husband. When they asked men to come out for prayers, you stood up like you had everything under control. Now you want to rely on me.
Without waiting for his response, she turned on her heel and walked away, leaving Arinze speechless. The frustration, the disappointment, it all boiled inside him. He had thought their marriage was a partnership, but it felt more like a business transaction now. Later that afternoon, Arinze went to Kalu's shop to clear his mind. Zara was there. As usual, she was quietly working at a counter. She noticed the troubled look on his face as he entered, and he approached him cautiously. "Sir, is everything all right?" she asked gently, handing him a cold bottle of water. Arinze hesitated but decided to confide in her. "I asked Chizoba for some money. just to keep things going until I get back on my feet. She asked for 20% interest and told me to start cooking dinner every night. Zara's eyebrows shot up. That's harsh. You are her husband. Arinze nodded, his frustration evident. I don't know what's happening to us. We were partners once. Now it feels like I'm begging her. Zara glanced around the shop to make sure no one was listening, then leaned closer. Look, sir, I don't have much, but I can lend you the money. See, no interest. Just pay me back when you can. I just have this money lying around the house and I don't need it at least for a year. Zara, I can't ask that of you, Arinze said. Sir, you didn't ask. I am offering. I just want to help you get through this rough patch. No strings attached. For a moment, Arinze didn't know what to say. Zara's gesture was a relief, but it also made him feel ashamed that he had to turn to someone outside his family for help. Still, he accepted her offer. He needed the money, and Zara's kindness came without the conditions Chizoba had laid out. Thank you, Zara, he said quietly, feeling a strange mix of gratitude and guilt. The next few days at home were no better. Chizoba's coldness only grew. She wasn't just listening to Annabelle alone. Her friends at the plaza had their own stories of dissatisfaction with their husbands, complaining about men being lazy, not pulling their weight, and not deserving respect. Every time Chizoba heard them, it was like fuel to a fire that had already started burning in her heart. Arinze didn't know how to fix what was happening. All he knew was that his wife was slipping further away, and no matter how hard he tried, she seemed determined to push him out. One sunny afternoon in August, Arinze received a call from a friend. Hello, Arinze, are you there? Okay, your wife, Chizoba, she has gone with Annabelle for the August meeting. Hello, Arinze, can you hear me? I'm just calling to let you know. I don't know if she had already told you. Arinze's stomach twisted. She hadn't mentioned any trip to him, let alone leaving the children behind. He quickly checked around the house, finding the boys looking tired and hungry. By evening, Zara came by to check on the shop. She noticed Arinze's worried expression and the state of the children. What happened, sir? She asked, her voice full of concern. Chizoba left without telling me. The kids haven't eaten since morning. I heard she went for an August meeting, and she doesn't even attend this kind of meetings. Without hesitation, Zara offered to help. Let me get some food for them. You've got enough to worry about, sir. Arinze nodded, grateful but ashamed that he couldn't even manage the basics at home without her. Over the next few days, Zara kept checking in, bringing food and helping with the children until Chizoba finally returned from her trip. The moment she stepped through the door, Arinze's anger boiled over. You left the children starving and didn't even tell me you were going for an August meeting. What were you thinking, Chizoba? Chizoba looked unimpressed, tossing her bags onto the floor.
Hello? Hey, don't shout at me. I don't owe you any explanations. If I want to travel, I will travel anywhere I want to.
You don't owe me any explanation? Chizoba, we are supposed to be a family. You don't just disappear and leave me to find out from someone else. She shrugged, her voice icy.
Oga, if you are tired of this, I can pack out. I don't have to stay here.
The room fell silent for a moment. Arinze stared at her. The woman he once loved so deeply, now standing before him, was like a stranger. He had enough. He had tolerated too much already. If that's what you want, do what you have to do. Chizoba was taken aback. Usually, he would apologize, even after their worst argument. But this time, there was no apology, no effort to mend things, just cold silence. That night, The house was eerily quiet. Arinze didn't say a word, and Chizoba felt a chill she hadn't experienced before. She tossed and turned, wondering if she had pushed her husband too far. The next morning, she confided in Annabel.
He has changed, oh. Usually, after a fight, he apologizes. But this time, he's silent. Annabel, I'm worried.
Annabel raised an eyebrow. Silent, you say? That's a sign, oh. You need to be careful. Maybe he has found someone else. Men don't just stay silent like that unless they are hiding something. My dear, put pressure on him, my sister. Don't let him fool you. Chizoba swallowed hard, fear creeping into her mind. Later that morning, as Arinze sat quietly eating his breakfast, she approached him, arms folded.
Arinze, are you seeing someone else? Is that why you have been so distant?
Arinze looked up at her, tired and frustrated. Chizoba, I've had enough of this. Believe what you want. At this time, I don't care. I am not doing this anymore. Without any word, he got up and walked out, leaving her standing there, stunned. That evening, Chizoba packed her things. She wasn't going to stay in a house where she wasn't respected.
I'm moving out,
she said coldly as she passed by Arinze. He didn't try to stop her. My dear, do what you want to do. I don't care. Chizoba moved to a rented apartment. Her anger mixed with confusion. She had thought leaving him would shake him up, but instead, it seemed to bring him relief. And for the first time, she began to wonder if she had lost more than she had realized. For months, Arinze had been sharing his frustration with Chizoba's aunt, Madame Agnes, hoping she might be able to talk some sense into her niece. She's too rude, Madame Agnes. I can't keep doing this, he said repeatedly. But Madame Agnes, calm and composed, always advised him, Arinze, my son, please be patient. I know that she can be difficult sometimes. Don't make any rash decision. Think about your children. Think about how you guys have come this far. She's your wife after all. When Chizoba moved out, Madame Agnes wasted no time calling her. Chizoba, what is this I hear? You left your husband's house? Are you okay?
Auntie, I'm not going back until he confesses. He's cheating, I know it.
Are you sure of this? A house isn't built on suspicion, oh. Chizoba, be careful before you destroy your marriage. But Chizoba wouldn't listen. A month passed, then 2, and still, Arinze didn't come looking for her. Desperate, Chizoba began calling Annabel.
Hello, Annabel, what's happening? Why hasn't Arinze come for me? I thought he would come by now.
Annabel's voice was cold. My sister, stay where you are, oh. Stay where you are. If you return now, he will think he has won. Don't let him think he has the upper hand. Remember what happened to me. Remember what happened in my marriage. Despite all I did for that stupid man, he ran away with a younger woman. 3 months passed, and Chizoba's anger simmered. Then one afternoon, she heard disturbing news. A woman had moved into her home. Fueled by rage, she stormed to the house, ready for a fight. When she arrived, Arinze wasn't home, but her children were there, playing in the yard. To her shock, Zara was with them, laughing and playing as if she belonged. But what hurt the most, the children didn't even look happy to see her. Chizoba's temper flared. You witch! She screamed at Zara. You think you can replace me in my own house? I will deal with you today. Zara just smiled and remained calm, not responding to Chizoba's insult. But then, a voice from inside the house rang out, clear and cutting. Chizoba, shut up! What did I say? Shut up! Chizoba froze. That voice, it sounded familiar. She turned around and to her shock, Annabel was standing at the doorway. Oh my God, am I dreaming? You are not dreaming. You are very much awake. You foolish woman. You think you are the only one who know how to play games, Chizoba? Chizoba's confusion turned to horror. What are you doing here? What's going on? Annabelle stepped forward, her voice dripping with contempt. You ungrateful woman. You never appreciated your husband, and now look where you have ended up. You thought I was your friend. God forbid. I planted Zara in Arinze's life to show you what a real woman should look like. Look at her. Look at how beautiful she looks. But you, always complaining. Every little thing, you are always nitpicking on what your husband does. Eh? Yes, Zara is my younger sister. I was sick of your constant complaining about your husband. Chizoba's heart pounded in her chest as the full weight of Annabelle's betrayal hit her. But you told me you were a widow, that your husband left you. Annabelle laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Widow? God will never let me be a widow in this life. Oh, and that was a lie. My husband is very much alive and well, but my ungrateful behavior drove him into the arms of another woman. I lied to you to teach women like you a lesson. Ungrateful, bitter women who don't know how to appreciate a good man. Chizoba's knees buckled and she collapsed to the floor, sobbing. Please, Annabelle, tell me you are lying. At that moment, Arinze and Kalu arrived, hearing the commotion from the gate. What's going on here? Chizoba looked up, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, Arinze. Please forgive me. I didn't know what I was doing. I was misled. See, Zara is Annabelle's younger sister. They set me up. Arinze stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then his gaze lifted to Zara and Annabelle. You know what? I've had enough. All of you, get out! I don't want any more drama in my life. I just want to focus on my children. Oh yeah, go. Zara's eyes widened in surprise. But Arinze, she started it. Kalu stepped forward, shaking his head. Zara, you are done here. You've caused enough problems. Pack your things and leave. Without another word, Zara and Annabelle gathered their belongings and walked out of the house, leaving Chizoba kneeling on the floor, broken and defeated. Arinze sighed deeply, looking at his children, then at the door. He had made his choice. It was time to move on, for their sake, not for his. The marriage is over. The morals in this story are, you should always learn to appreciate your relationship and handle it with care, because the grass is not always greener on the other side. Another lesson is that you should be careful about the kind of relationships that are around you. Some people are just mean. They do not mean well for anybody. Once their own life isn't working, they will make sure that another person's life isn't going to work. If you enjoyed this story, please do click the next video showing on your screen right now. You will enjoy this also. Remember to like and subscribe to this channel. Okay, now let's head over to the next video.